Hello, I'm Declan Harvey. These are the main stories in Northern Ireland. Francis Rice was murdered in 1975. Today, the convictions of these three men were upheld. His mother tells us justice has been done.
50 years we've waited for this, but to get this cleared up. We knew they were guilty and knew what they'd done.
The GAA claims Casement Park would have been redeveloped by now if it were a soccer or rugby ground. We have reaction from Palestinians and Israelis here about the Gaza ceasefire deal.
But there are also as well the trauma, the loss of relatives, of loved ones.
There's a lot of loss and a lot of grief that hasn't been, that there was no room to even process until now.
Country music star Lisa McHugh reveals her baby daughter's fight with RSV during a winter of higher rates. The murder of Robert Wilkin in Donegal, a man and woman have gone on trial.
Errigal Kieran's stand on the brink, and just about every human being in Ballygolly is heading to Croke Park for the All-Ireland final.
And it's a dry end to the week with spells of sunshine continuing to come and go. Can we expect the same this weekend? I'll have your forecast shortly.
It's Friday, the 17th of January. Welcome to the programme this evening. Exactly 50 years ago, this 17-year-old, Francis Rice, was abducted and stabbed to death in Castlewellan in County Down. It was a sectarian killing. In 1981, three men were jailed for murder. Brothers Eric and Cyril Cullen and George Kirkpatrick. They became known as the Castlewellan Three. Only George Kirkpatrick is still alive, and today his attempt to have their convictions overturned failed. He'd argued fresh evidence cast doubt on their guilt. Judges at the Court of Appeal were not convinced. Lindsay Telford reports.
Applause in the public gallery of the Court of Appeal and relief for loved ones seeking justice. The family of Francis Rice, who was 17 when he was abducted, stabbed to death and dumped in a laneway in Castlewellan in 1975, said they always believed that the three accused were guilty.
Well, I'm glad that justice has been done, which has been 50 years we've waited for this, but to get this cleared up. We knew they were guilty and knew what they'd done, but they kept bringing it up all the time.
George Kirkpatrick and brothers Eric and Cyril Cullen, who served 14 years in prison, have always maintained their innocence. In a BBC Northern Ireland Spotlight programme in 2018, two of the so-called Castlewellan Three repeated those claims.
I don't blame them for trying to push to get people caught for the murder of their son. I don't blame them at all for that. But all I can say is, it definitely wasn't me, and it definitely wasn't my brother.
I think I said to them, "You've got the wrong man. I had nothing to do with that. Nothing whatsoever."
The case was reopened after the findings of that programme cast serious doubt on their guilt. The appeal centred on confession statements made by the men, which they claimed they were tricked and coerced into making during police interviews by officers who were later discredited by another court. But the Lady Chief Justice said today that didn't mean that the three men's convictions were unsafe.
Just because there was an unsafe conviction a number of years ago involving police officers taking confessions, and that some of those same officers are involved in another case, it doesn't automatically follow that that second case will result in an overturn of a conviction.
Eric Cullen, who is now the only surviving member of the Castlewellan Three, was at court for the judgment with both his family and his legal representatives.
The families and Eric have maintained their innocence for over 30 years. They still maintain their innocence, and we're going to consider the full judgment. The full judgment will be released this afternoon, so we'll look at that in detail and see what other options are available to the family.
For one family, relief today that 50 years after the murder of their loved one, for them, justice has been upheld. Lindsay Telford, BBC Newsline at the Court of Appeal in Belfast.
The GAA is apparently of the view that Casement Park would have been redeveloped by now if it were a rugby or soccer ground, and they've said as much to the Sports Minister Gordon Lyons. Minutes from a meeting between Mr Lyons and the GAA President Jarlath Burns reveal the frank exchange of views behind closed doors. A plan to redevelop Casement was first envisaged in 2011, along with proposals for both Ulster Rugby's home at Ravenhill and the National Football Stadium at Windsor Park. Casement is the only one still waiting to be modernised. Here's Brendan Hughes.
This was the dream, but this is the reality. 15 years since a new Casement Park was first proposed, it's still lying derelict. With funding in limbo and plans for the Euros dropped, our frustrations at fever pitch. Fraught and tetchy was how some described this meeting between the GAA and the Sports Minister. Now minutes reveal what was said behind closed doors. According to the records, GAA President Jarlath Burns questioned why the Minister had not attended a GAA match. Gordon Lyons said he's willing to attend, but he does not accept engagements on Sundays. Casement Park official Stephen McGeehan said if equivalent problems happened in soccer or rugby, they would have been dealt with by now. The Minister said the stadium has been treated in the same manner as other sports.
It's the third and final project of the Regional Stadia programme.
Several months on, MLAs are asking questions.
That meeting happened back in October. Has the Minister met with the UK Government since that to discuss the level of funding the Treasury might make available?
Minister, will you give a clear commitment here today that the GAA will not receive more than its fair share of funding?
Since Casement Park is a priority for your department and a flagship project for the Executive, can the Minister list the organisations and people he has met or corresponded with?
But the Minister kicked back.
It was not me that took a judicial review in order to get the planning permission quashed. It was not me or my actions that resulted in a committee inquiry around safety certificates for Casement Park. It was not the actions of myself that led to a 2015 Cabinet Office report that revealed chaos behind the stadium project.
Gordon Lyons says he's written to the Secretary of State for an update on funding. With millions of pounds still to be found from somewhere, building Casement is moving well into extra time. Brendan Hughes, BBC Newsline, Belfast.
3,500 miles away tonight, the full Israeli cabinet has been meeting to ratify the Gaza ceasefire and the release of hostages. Local Palestinians and Israeli people here are following developments closely, as you might imagine. BBC Newsline has been speaking to some of them. Here's Claire Graham.
News of a deal. It would see the war in Gaza stop, an exchange of hostages and prisoners, the withdrawal of Israeli troops and return of displaced Palestinians.
That we're no longer going to wake up to the news of children dying under the rubble, that they can't reach to them, families being wiped out, that it's been already long 15 months of suffering, the trauma, the loss of relatives, of loved ones, even the ones who survived. Their memories erased, where they played as children, where the school they went to, it's all now all gone.
The Israeli Prime Minister's office says some hostages could be released on Sunday.
The overall sense that I get from a lot of Israelis is that this should have happened months and months ago, if not, just over a year ago. And there is a strong sense in Israel that there is a lot of loss and a lot of grief that hasn't been, that there was no room to even process until now, because there was this state of constant war.
There are calls for the UK and Irish governments to do more.
The Palestinian people are very good at, standing on their feet and start again, and the resilience amongst the Palestinian people is amazing. Bring Palestinian children to be treated in UK and Ireland, and allow Palestinians who are settled here to bring their families here as a family reunion, to get them out of that mayhem, because some members of our community lost loved ones in Gaza.
This war could end. Its scars won't heal easily.
And I suspect it's going to take a very long period before the two sides can see each other's trauma and deal with what they have done to the other side, or deal with the consequences of this period.
The peace mediators in Qatar say this deal is a last chance for Gaza. Claire Graham, BBC Newsline.
Now, I just want to clarify something that was said in our top story this evening regarding the Castlewellan 3. Eric Cullen is the only one of the three men to still be alive. Apologies to all those involved for the error there. We move on now because country music singer Lisa McHugh has revealed her baby daughter was among more than 1,000 infants to contract the respiratory virus RSV during a surge of cases this winter. That figure of 1,000 covers the period from last October to now, and compares to just 700 babies who contracted RSV in the entire year of 2023. Also, of the 1,000 cases, 2/3 were hospitalised, including Lisa's daughter, Hallie. Lisa said the whole thing was horrendous when she spoke to our health reporter, Aileen Morna.
Lisa McHugh is one of the biggest names in country music in Ireland. But in November, in a world away from music, she faced her toughest gig.
It is horrific. You feel so helpless, and it's the most horrible feeling for a parent to go through, to not be able to fix, what's going on or help.
At just 4 months old, Lisa's daughter Hallie was admitted to hospital with RSV.
It's all a blur, to be honest, and it's still something I don't think I've fully processed. She wasn't feeding at all, so she had to be tube fed. She had to then go on oxygen because her oxygen levels were declining. It was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous to see your baby lying there. I'm probably going to get upset, but being so helpless, it's horrible because you can't do anything for them. You're trying to. You would just take it away if you could, but you're just going to have to go through the motions with them, and she was in the best place.
RSV is one of the common viruses which cause coughs and colds, but it can be particularly serious for babies if they're struggling to breathe and feed.
For a very young baby, particularly an ex-premature baby or baby who maybe has an underlying heart issue, it can be very dangerous. The majority of babies, it's just an unpleasant illness, but for those particularly at risk, it can be potentially fatal.
Since September, an RSV vaccine has been made available to pregnant women from 28 weeks, but it was too late for Lisa.
Had it been something that was offered to me at the time, knowing what I know now and what we've been through, I would 100% take it myself.
Lisa is urging parents not to be afraid of speaking up to protect their babies.
You're the parent, so you're there to protect your baby. If someone wants to come and visit your baby and you want them to wash their hands before they touch them, just say, nicely. Or if you have any sort of cold or any sort of sniffle, just leave the visiting till you're feeling 100% better. Don't be afraid to say that because the baby can't speak for themselves.
Now, little Hallie is slowly building up her immune system, but is doing well. Aileen Morna, BBC Newsline, Enniskillen.
Well, you can read more about what Lisa has been telling us and also learn how to spot the signs of RSV on the BBC News NI website right now. You can also find it by downloading the BBC News app. A man and woman accused of murder in Donegal were in it together, a court has been told. Nikita Burns and Alan Vile are suspected of killing 66-year-old Robert Wilkin in June 2023. He was originally from County Tyrone, but his body was discovered at the foot of Ireland's highest sea cliffs, Slieve League. Our reporter in Dublin, Aoife Moore, is following this for us. Aoife, there was a large search operation, wasn't there, for Robert Wilkin around the cliffs at the time?
That's right. So we heard in court today that Robert Wilkins' body was only taken from the water beneath Slieve League after 7 days. And because of the time spent in the water, there was no definitive cause of death given by the autopsy. Now, because of that, they said there was a number of injuries, including blunt force trauma to the head, which the prosecution believes is what killed Robert Wilkins, but there was no definitive cause, and also it was an incredibly complicated search. We heard today that a boat, a drone, a helicopter, climbing crews, the Gardaí and the Defence Forces were all brought out in the search for Robert Wilkins.
So then to court today, what happened?
Yeah, so it was the opening day today, and we just heard from the prosecution. Now, it's worth saying at this point that both the defendants have denied murder charges, but we did hear that the three were drinking together in and around Killybegs the evening of the 24th of June in 2023, and it's the prosecution's case that Mr Wilkins was assaulted and then thrown over the cliff edge at Slieve League. Now, both deny this, and they had become known to each other. I believe Alan Vile and Mr Wilkins were living together in the town before this happened, but the case is due to take 3 weeks and there is a number of witnesses. The prosecution is relying heavily on CCTV and DNA evidence, so this could go on for another while yet, Declan.
We'll continue to follow it. Aoife, thank you very much. Bird flu has been confirmed in a wild goose in County Tyrone, making it the first wild bird to test positive here since September 2023. It was found near Blacklock outside Dungannon, and the presence of the disease was confirmed through tests yesterday. The Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs said excellent biosecurity was the best defence for reducing the risk of transmission to poultry and other captive birds. Survivors of historical institutional abuse have appealed for an extension to the deadline of a compensation scheme. As it stands, HIA claims cannot be made beyond the 2nd of April this year, but campaigners say even though it's been operating since 2020, some victims haven't yet come forward, while others haven't been made aware of the scheme at all.
Dealing with this tragic episode in our history has taken a toll on all of us. Not just on victims and survivors of historical institutional abuse, but our families, our friends, and our loved ones.
More than 70 firefighters have been tackling a significant fire at a recycling plant near Coleraine. They were called to the site on the Craigmore Road shortly before 2:15 this morning. Local residents have been advised to keep their windows and doors closed because of the amount of smoke. No injuries have been reported. OK, let's turn to sport because Thomas Niblock is here, and for one Tyrone club, excitement is at fever pitch this weekend.
Is it what, Declan? Is it what? The understatement of the century, it feels. It really is hard to believe that no Tyrone club has ever reached an All-Ireland senior final, let alone actually win one. But Errigal Kieran stand on the brink of something very special at Croke Park on Sunday. Now, they take on Dublin side Coola, and I spent some of this week in Ballygolly, where I can tell you they've gone football mad. In this part of the world, Gaelic football is king. Even Homer Simpson is a fan. 3 primary schools feed into Errigal Kieran, and the pupils of St Mary's are enjoying every minute. Why do you think that Errigal's going to win?
Because they're very good players and they'll want to have their name in the trophy, the first team to do it.
What do you think's going to happen this weekend?
I think Errigal will win by a point and Ogie will get it, the winner.
Ogie has scored the winner against Kilcoo and he saved Errigal in the semi-final, didn't he?
Yeah.
You think he's the man for the job?
Yeah, probably.
I'm assuming you're going to Croke Park on Sunday?
Yeah, I definitely am. What it meant to me one time, I mean, somebody said to Mickey Hart after we won the first Tyrone thing, they said, now we can die happy. Mickey says, could you not live happy? Well, I'll live happy after this if we do it. That's for definite.
Next up is St Bridget's Primary, a couple of miles outside Ballygolly. They sing in this part of the parish too, on another non-uniform day.
the perfect time for a new principal to take charge.
So I took on the new role there just after Christmas, and the first week of school was disrupted by the snow, and the second week now we're preparing for an Ireland final, so there's probably been more Ergal days than uniform days this past while, but it's just great for the kids, and it's the chance to go to Croke Park and support their own club team. It'll be an amazing occasion for everybody.
Next, it's St Malachy's, one of the oldest schools in Ireland, but inside, full of life, noise and Ergal supporters, unless you're the two teachers in the school who play for rival club Lough McCrory. Kinda awkward. As for the pupils, however, there's no confusion.
I'm Peter McGinley.
And your uncle is?
The manager of Ergal Cairn.
Enda.
Yes.
So tell me this, what way is Sunday going to go? Give me your expert analysis of what's going to happen.
Oh, it's going to be a very tight game. My Coola's got one of the best forwards in the game, but we've got two. And my uncle, he'll have a good game plan.
The uncle with the game plan, the players with the ability, and the supporters on the brink of history.
They're brilliant, and all the schools are closed on Monday, including the secondary school. Now, Ulster host Exeter in a must-win final pool game of rugby's European Champions Cup. Victory with a bonus point would keep alive the hopes of a place in the knockout phase. One Ulsterman watching tonight with split loyalties is former fly half Gareth Steenson, now a coach in his native Armagh. He spent over a decade playing for Exeter, winning domestic and European titles. Gavin Andrews reports.
Putting in the hours on the training ground and enjoying every minute. Gareth Steenson's rugby journey started on this pitch, but he made his name in England. After 16 special years at Exeter, both as a player and then a coach, the draw of Armagh was too strong.
To come back now after all these years, it just feels sort of right. It's kind of coming full circle. It's lovely to come back and see the club flourishing as well as it is. You know, there's 250 odd kids out here on a Saturday morning. There's kids even at the minute out training, so it's fantastic to see that. But yeah, it's great to be able to come back, rekindle old friendships, see family again. So it's been a lovely, lovely experience. It was a decision that we pondered over for a long, long time. 16 years at one rugby club. Like, it's a dream come true, really. Was it the journey I expected to happen? Definitely not. But it is a home away from home, and it's definitely very exciting to see the Exeter coming over this weekend to play against Ulster.
And he understands what's at stake for both teams.
They've got an opportunity this weekend to create history. Never has an Exeter Chiefs team won in a European Cup on Irish soil. So it's a big opportunity against one of the big provinces. From an Ulster point of view, they've had some good results along the way, maybe lost their way a little bit around the winter sort of period, but a good win in Connacht. So there's opportunities to get in Challenge Cup, so there's loads of positives around this game. I honestly think the two teams can go out, and whoever comes out on top will feel pretty good about themselves going forward for the rest of the season.
There's definitely a foot in both camps, but these Armagh boys will have plenty to say to their coach if Ulster can pull off a win. Gavin Andrews, BBC Newsline.
Now, it's quite the picture, isn't it? But Rory McIlroy struggled to make progress during the second round of the Dubai Desert Classic today. The world number 3 picked up just one shot on the day with a 1-under round of 70. That's 8 shots off the overnight lead. But Tom McKibben fared a little better today and is 5 under par going into the weekend. There it goes. Mark Allen is through to the semi-finals of the Masters tournament at Alexandra Palace in London. The Antrim beat Mark Selby by 6 frames to 2 in their quarter-final last night to make the last 4 and will now face Sean Murphy tomorrow evening. Allen previously won the Masters in 2018. It's one of snooker's triple crown, along with the UK and World Championships. Dungannon Swifts are the surprise package in the Irish Premiership season. Now, they're up to second in the table and are looking to close the gap on leaders Linfield tonight. Rodney McAree's side hosts Glenavon, hoping to continue a rich reign of form. Nicola McCarthy reports.
A 5-1 thrashing of Crusaders, the latest 3 points picked up by this impressive Swift side. So what is the secret to their recent success?
Just down to probably hard work and boys knowing what they're doing.
and even boys not involved in the squad or not in the starting 11, they know when they're coming on what they have to do, and they're making an impact when they're doing it. Rod says it every week that no matter who we're playing, the next game is always our most important. It's about always going into that, and we have full belief at the minute that we can go to anyone and beat anyone.
Next up, a Glenavon team also in good form, having won 3 of their last 4 league games.
It's a mid-Ulster derby, and it's one that we can look forward to. It's great not to be in a position at this moment in time where Dungannon Swifts is looking over their shoulders as they have done in recent years.
Victory tonight would cut Linfield's lead at the top to 6 points and keep the Swifts flying high. Nicola McCarthy, BBC Newsline.
Live coverage of the game tonight on the BBC Sport website and iPlayer. You can follow Ulster's European Champions Cup tie against Exeter on BBC Radio Ulster from 7:45, and of course there's coverage across the BBC of the All-Ireland Club Final. That's it this evening.
Thomas, thank you very much. Look at this. This is this morning. Look at this cloud over Larne. Barra's here with the forecast. Before you do, what is this cloud? It's remarkable. Take a closer look.
Well, contrary to what some people thought online, it isn't a nuclear strike. This is a fairly rare cloud formation known as the lenticular cloud. And what happens is they form near hills and mountains, and when winds blow over the mountains, they form like a holding wave pattern where these clouds then build within that wave. And then when they coincide with the sunrise and sunset, we get gorgeous photographs like this. So fantastic. So thank you to all of our weather watchers for sending in their beautiful photographs. This one absolutely stunning along the Antrim coast this morning, sent in by John Fitzsimmons. More photographs on the BBC News NI website if you want to head over there to catch a glimpse of a few of those. Now back to the weather. Overnight tonight, a lot of cloud around. It's not going to be too cold. The southerly winds continue, temperatures around 7 or 8 degrees. Now, the weekend, it's going to be pretty good for the outdoors. Tomorrow, still a lot of cloud around, especially during the first part of the day, but it will brighten up. There will be some sunshine coming and going. Bits and pieces around the coast first thing tomorrow morning, cloudier weather further inland, but as we go through the day, we continue to see those southerly winds, so bits and pieces of sunshine pushing northward, so hopefully all of us will get a glimmer or two of sunshine. The temperatures staying about 3 or 4 degrees above average for the time of year. Typically tomorrow, well, we're looking at 10 or 11 Celsius. So a mild end to the day tomorrow. Bits and pieces of cloud continue into tomorrow night and into Sunday. Perhaps a little bit cooler where we have some clear skies for a time, but typically temperatures hovering around the mid-single figures. Now, a weak weather front coming in on Sunday looks set to bring maybe some patchy rain towards western areas, but for eastern areas it looks as though it will be mainly dry. And as that weak weather front pushes eastwards later on in the day, the rain will begin to fizzle out. It's not likely to amount to very much, but it does look as though western areas will see most of that. Eastern areas, I think, will see largely dry conditions. And again, those temperatures reaching about 10 or 11 Celsius. They should be closer to about 7 degrees at this time of year. And then into next week, it's not too bad at all. A lot of dry weather heading our way, at least until Wednesday or Thursday. Temperatures falling back closer to what they should be, though, for the time of year.
All right, Bar, thank you very much. 7 o'clock on a Friday. Consider the weekend as having started. Thanks for watching all week. Join us again if you can, 6:30 on Monday. But for myself and the rest of the team, bye-bye.